Hey, this is Troi Irons, and I'm interviewing for Diandra Reviews It All.
Perfect. My first question for you is, you've said that being an artist is channeling the universality of the human experience. So what have you found is universal about being human?
Wow, that's a big question. I think one of the things that's universal that we all go through is we are all striving for something, whether it be happiness or fulfilling a lifelong goal. We all have this sense of being on the way somewhere, whether that's up or down. We're all on a journey. So I would say that.
Have you found your happiness, or you think it's like constantly remeeting?
I was talking about this earlier today with Jamie. Most of my life has been geared towards releasing this album and making this art that I'm actually proud of, and I finally did that, and I feel very, very fulfilled and successful in the sense of the word and how I define success. I've actually just recently found my happiness. I'm kind of thinking about what's next.
Yeah, because it's never just like you're happy. It's like re-meeting it and rediscovering it and reaching a next
we adjust
level.
Our boundaries, and just gonna have to figure out what my next boundary is.
Yeah. Well, I was reading about you, obviously, and forming the questions, and you had that TED Talks that I thought was like really poignant in terms of how to be. You said something like, "I had to remember to have fun," and I thought that was so powerful because I felt that, and I think a lot of people who are trying to make it feel that too.
Yeah.
Was there a moment where you felt like you found the fun again?
I think it was more of a series of moments. It was a series of moments that led to me letting go, and kind of a continuous, like, once I let go and stopped caring, then I started just naturally taking the steps, and I started having fun along the way, and then I realized, oh, right, this used to be fun. It was kind of a slow discovery, and a kind of 2020. Oh, this is fun again.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. You said I had to stop caring, but I think it's that you started. I think it's that you stopped worrying, and you started caring.
Yeah. In a sense, I started caring about the things that mattered, and I stopped caring about charts and breaking records and all the hoopla that I'd been taught to care about, because I was in meetings from a young age. Like, I'd be in the meeting and they'd be talking about me in third person. Oh, the girls this, the girls that, numbers this, numbers that. Oh, Beyonce, oh, Pink is doing this, oh, Hannah Montana's doing that. So I was always hearing these numbers and these, like, products marketing terms, and because they would talk about me like I wasn't there, I was like, okay, well, if I want the respect, I kind of have to be one of them. So I started thinking like that, and I think to a certain degree that's healthy, because I do think of myself as a business person, as an entrepreneur, but there is another side to it. The difference between an artist and an entrepreneur is, like you were saying before, the artist, like, my purpose is to interpret what I see around me and use that interpretation to galvanize people into some sort of different action or some different emotion that changes culture overall. And I can't do that if I'm not actually absorbing what's going on around me. So I did start caring about things that mattered again.
And you're also really, I like that you're ambitious, but I think it's also a burden of actually being creative and talented. Like, some people are talented but they're not creative. Some people are creative but they're not like the most talented. Like, I feel like you're fulfilling all spectrums, like, and that kind of leads to the difficulties of not being able to be molded by others.
Yeah, it's a little bit of it's not a path that a lot of people have taken, and a lot of people that I work with, they're like, you're actually the only artist that cares about this. So this is kind of a new conversation for me. I'm not used to talking about this with the artist. I'm not used to, like, some artists don't like criticism. Some artists, like, don't like can't have certain conversations with them. But it's not just that I'm like trying to be an entrepreneur, that I'm trying to put my hands in everything. Like, that's part of my art. That's what makes it fun for me.
Yeah.
Numbers are fun for me. Like tweaking formulas and thinking about the way people's minds work and what's the best way to get them, like metaphorically, you got a lollipop. What is it about this lollipop that people like? How do we get more people to access that flavor? What can we tweak about that flavor to get more people like the lollipop? Because in a sense, like, okay, maybe it's a CBD lollipop, right? So it's actually good for people. It's going to help people get through their days. It's not going to mess them up. They're not going to be trashed. They're not going to be wasted. It's actually just the right amount. So just things like that, that's fun for me. That is art for me. So it has been a process of learning the balance of trust and the balance of asserting myself.
And what is that commercial? How many licks to the center of a Tootsie?
1013. I did it when I was 10.
What? You actually did it? I did like 5, and I was like, I'm gonna bite it.
Yeah, I had to find out.
Yeah. Wow. Well, now you know. Well, truth is something that I see you mention a lot in your interviews, and I was wondering, how do you measure your truth? Now that you're measuring happiness, how do you measure truth
How
too?
do I measure truth? I think it's kind of just a sensor that goes off in my head. It's funny, when you asked that, immediately Nisha popped into my head because I'm reading one of his books right now.
Oh, which one? Is it the one, I always read the titles, but is it the one about history? That one I really love.
It's the one about, I think it's called Beyond Good and Evil.
Okay,
and it
yes.
starts out comparing truth to a woman that many philosophers have tried to approach and fail every time because they just don't understand it, which I think is hilarious because facts. But before I should not speak on that because I haven't read enough of the book to like actually. I'm going to say something really stupid if I start talking about it right now. I think I don't necessarily measure my truth. It's just I go off my gut for truth. Yeah, it's just a gut feeling.
So maybe you're more of a Immanuel Kant, like kind of intuitive. There's this universal link between all of us.
Maybe, but the thing with Kant is he deals so much with the cognitive, and I am a little bit more on the existential side, like a little bit more Dostoevsky, because I kind of like what's in front of me. It really matters more than whether it exists or not. Like, I'm not thinking like, is this brick real? I'm thinking, this is brick. This is how I experience brick. So I'd rather deal with that than, is it real? Does it exist for me? Because if I were to go too heavily into that, I feel like I would get detached from what the average human experience is. Because most people are so plugged into this system that they don't have time to think about the intricacies of how did this brick get here, and they're more dealing with this brick just hit me. So instead of dealing with the way that the building was formed, I'm going to deal with the way that we interact with the building, if that makes sense.
No, it does make sense, but it just surprises me a little bit because, like, going back to the question of like, how do you assess your truth? I would think that you would ask what makes the brick, but I'm thinking of the brick in terms of emotions, because I would see that it seems like in your music as an artist, you're kind of trying to discover what you really feel.
Yeah.
Like, go beyond what is the moment of a feeling and try to find the roots.
Actually, I think you're right about that. I think I may have mingled your metaphor and tangented, but you were right on the mark, because one of the most important things to me is that we do analyze our feelings and why we feel the way we feel, because if we're aware, then we have a choice. Awareness is choice. And so then you can choose to heal, you can choose to feel something or not feel something, and you can make progress and really live your life with the freedom that you've been given, rather than just automatically reacting or acting just as a cog in the system, per se. So choice and freedom is really important to me, and you have to be aware to know that you have a choice. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you kind of said something that led me to my next question, which I know that Lost Angels was really about kind of being taken aback by the industry, and my question kind of connects with honesty in that when I was reading about how this album came about, I wanted to ask you, do you feel that adversity is as integral as vulnerability when making art? Because you were talking about kind of racial prejudice, gender prejudice, and it was like that. All the great artists always have that pushback
Yeah.
of sorts.
I think that without adversity, you can't. It's kind of like the pearl and the oyster. I think it can be done, but I think it's very difficult to make real art without some sort of struggle or adversity, because otherwise it's kind of just like a flat plane, and there's songs and there's music like that kind of works, but it really only works for a given time.
Mm-hmm.
Like there are times where, I mean, it's the perfect time to listen to a Future song, but it's kind of a flat plane. It's a very specific flavor that only works in a certain situation.
Yeah.
It's not something that you can listen to year-round, all times of the day. When it's like 2 a.m. and you're feeling introspective, you're going to have to turn on something different. So yeah, I think struggle and adversity is one of the basic ingredients of art, if you will.
Yeah, because everybody's talking about vulnerability, and I'm like, I think adversity is where it's at.
Yeah.
When it comes to art, because if you overcome the adversity, it's like almost this euphoria of art. Like you could either sink to it and become bitter,
Yeah.
and then kind of unclear, but if you overcome it, it's wow, it's like, what wisdom.
Yeah, there's growth. And
Yeah.
in growth, I think you have to leave something behind to get to the next chapter. And that art that you set there, that art that you put out of yourself, I'm trying to avoid making a shit metaphor, but the art that you shit out.
Go back to the brick. Go back to the brick.
Okay, all right. You lay the brick there with the mortar, okay? Keep it PC. You lay the brick there with the mortar, and then you're able to move on to the next layer in your foundation. And if there's no growth, there's no brick. So yeah.
Well, we got like really deep, and I love it.
Okay.
Well, I wanted to say, like, I know that you read Albert Camus and you were talking about The Stranger and kind of continuing on that idea of isolation and Lost Angels. Was there, after the album was done, did you kind of learn how to protect your angelic side?
Yeah, I started building a community, which was weird because it felt forced at first, because there were very conscious steps and decisions that I made, and there were certain people that I wanted to keep around me that I wasn't necessarily deeply connected to from the start.
Yeah.
But now I feel there's a core group of people that I feel connected to, and being able to receive energy and give energy is very important for me to stay true to who I am and what I believe in, to keep the good within me intact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I kind of brought up Albert Camus, because like he's one of my favorite authors, and it felt like your journey was somebody who, when you mentioned specifically The Stranger, I thought this is somebody who learned if you're a stranger to yourself, then you're a stranger to everyone. And I find that connected in a little bit in your answer of like, you forced yourself to find a community. And I think that force came through self-discovery.
Yeah. It's interesting the things that you're saying, because as you're saying, you're touching on some things that I hadn't put into words, because I don't often think in words, but words make things clearer sometimes. And it's interesting because for the most part, or for a lot of my life, I would say I never really discovered anything different about myself, but that's not entirely true, because I or I used to not be that in touch with my emotions. I would kind of deny that they existed because I was very mind over body. So anything that I decide automatically, that's it. There's no past memory. There's nothing from before affects me now, was my belief. But as I began to have a community around me, and with a community you need to empathize, and if you're going to empathize you need to admit that you are similar to them and that you have commonalities. And in admitting that, I did discover things about myself that I didn't realize before. So yeah, I became less a stranger to other people, and as a result, less a stranger to myself.
So we're heading towards like the last two questions, and going along those lines of acceptance, what can you say you have truly accepted about yourself as an artist and as a person right now?
That I have feelings.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the biggest thing that I have accepted, that I change, that I'm vulnerable, that that it's okay to, that's not weak to have feelings. It's actually very strong.
Yeah.
It takes courage to feel everything that happens to you, and that was a big step for me. It's in terms of like gender and strength and a lot of the ways that I process things and the ways that I've formed my ideology growing up. A lot had to change.
Yeah. No, I think that's a powerful realization, and I understand it in some ways because, you know, I come from a Latin family. I was raised by women. We didn't have men around. So the idea of being strong is just, it's kind of like set. You're not supposed to be bothered because you have like 3 generations to 20 generations of women before you that had it worse kind of idea. And I think it's powerful to realize that you do feel bad.
Yeah.
And kind of then have to redefine strength for yourself.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, my last question is, you were saying that I've been putting words in your mouth a little bit, and I do feel like your lyrics are very picturesque. So I wanted to know what would be the image of love when it comes to you and music?
Would be the image of love? It would probably be, how do I describe this? Too young, not too young, like 16. 2 middle-aged teenagers in a transparent cube suspended in midair, and some sort of purple liquid is coming down all the sides, and it fills up the tank until you can't see them anymore. That's what I see.
That is an image. That is a real image. But why? So do you feel like love disappears you a little bit? Like your love for music
It consumes you.
consumes. All right. And purple. What a royal color.
Velveteen.
All right. Well, that's it. That was perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This is Troi Irons. Diandra Reviews It All. Woo.